Hey everyone, we're just as excited as you are for the upcoming film Jumanji: The Next Level, so we're going to be covering the entire Jumanji movie timeline to catch you up. This timeline spans nearly 150 years, so if you want to show your appreciation, consider subscribing. We've got more videos like this one coming up. Jumanji's origins. You may be wondering where this magical board game came from in the first place. I mean, I know I have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, they'll remain unanswered because the origin of the deadly game is unknown. But here's what we do know. Brantford, New Hampshire, 1869. In 1869, two boys, Caleb and Benjamin Sproul, bury a mysterious box near the town of Brantford, New Hampshire. The boys hear the sound of drums as they dig, and a spooked Benjamin falls into the hole. He's ready to flee, and I can't blame him, that sounds pretty spooky. But Caleb convinces him that they've got to stay and finish the job. They bury the game, hopefully for good, but considering we're just at the beginning of this timeline, I think you know what's coming. Brantford, New Hampshire, 1969. 100 years later, in 1969, a young Alan Parrish is running from some bullies. He makes his way to his father's shoe factory. There, he finds Carl, a factory worker played by David Alan Grier. Carl has befriended Alan and excitedly shows him a new shoe prototype he's designed. It's a little ahead of its time for 1969, but Carl's still excited to see how Alan's father will react to the prototype. Right on time, Alan's dad approaches the duo. Alan asks his dad to walk him home to avoid his bullies, but Dad isn't exactly sympathetic to Alan's cause, so he tells him to go stand up for himself. Alan plops Carl's prototype down on a conveyor belt and is about to head out to face his bullies, but just as he's making his exit, the conveyor belt starts to move, sending the shoe prototype into the machine works. The sneaker is just too hype for 1969 and it destroys the machine. Carl takes the blame for the mistake as Alan prepares to cross paths with his bullies again. They're waiting for him outside the factory, doing bully things like kicking the crap out of Alan's bike. Alan gets a beating too, whatever. But to top it all off, his bike gets stolen. We learn that Alan's their target because he made the mistake of befriending the bully's girlfriend, Sarah. Clearly, the bully is totally insecure, and you know what, Alan, you should take that as a compliment, man, because that means he sees you as a threat. Anyway, as Alan picks himself up and dusts himself off, we hear the ominous sounds of drums once again. Alan follows them to a nearby construction site. Because, come on, Caleb and Benjamin Sproul, did you really think burying an evil board game would be enough? The drums get louder and louder as Alan trespasses onto the construction site. He spots a mysterious box, opens it, and lo and behold, he's found an evil board game, Jumanji. Alan takes the game home, but before he has a chance to really check it out, his parents confront him about the whole bully debacle from earlier. They're fed up with his antics, so they've decided to send him to an all-boys boarding school. Alan gets into a fight with his dad, which honestly feels pretty justified. His parents go to dinner, leaving Alan to stew in his rage. He's about to use all children's ultimate move, run away from home, but then the doorbell rings, and it's his crush, Sarah Whittle. She's returning his bike, but she begins to hear the mysterious drumming as well. Alan invites her in to play Jumanji, and things escalate quickly. Sarah summons bats that chase her out of the house, and Alan is sucked into the game, never to return. Well, unless another player rolls a 5 or an 8. But with Sarah out of the picture and Alan inside Jumanji, there's no one to continue the game, and it lays dormant for the next 26 years. Brantford, New Hampshire, 1995. Then, in 1995, Judy and Peter Shepard arrive in Brantford with their Aunt Nora. Their parents have been killed in a tragic skiing accident, and the kids are about to move into a creepy house that's been abandoned for years. They're not thrilled about it, the house or the parents thing. The children begin to hear rumors about Alan's disappearance, but their aunt dismisses their concerns. Judy's known to be a compulsive liar, and Peter just doesn't talk at all. At least he hasn't since their parents passed away. And to top it off, the kids are struggling to fit in at school. But if we've learned anything, it's that Jumanji loves to kick kids when they're down. So Judy and Peter begin to hear the beating of drums. The game lures the kids to the attic, with the drum beats intensifying until they discover Jumanji once again. They waste no time in busting open that evil board game and rolling the dice. As they play, they summon gigantic mosquitoes, mischievous monkeys, and Alan. Oh, and a lion too, but it seems pretty chill and it does what any cat would do. Nap in a comfy spot on the bed. By this time, Alan's no longer a little boy. Apparently time in the game passes much like time in real life because Alan's been surviving in the jungle for 26 years. He's thrilled to be free, but he's also heartbroken to find that his life as he knew it is gone. He soon runs into his old buddy, the visionary shoemaker Carl. Carl's become a cop in the years since Alan's disappearance. Carl doesn't recognize Alan, so Alan takes off down the street to find his parents. His next stop is his father's factory, which is closed and abandoned. An old man living there remembers Alan's family's long search for their missing child. They were so committed to searching for Alan that it led to their financial ruin, and it didn't help that many people believed Alan's father was to blame for his son's disappearance. It sinks in that Alan has nothing left. Well, except for the game. He returns to his childhood home and cleans himself up. Peter tells Alan that he's scared of the game, and Alan tells him he should be afraid of Jumanji. What happens in the game has real-life consequences, but they have to finish the game to put things back to normal, so they decide to play on. It's not so simple though. The game won't let them continue because they're missing a player, Sarah Whittle. So Alan takes the kids to her old house. She's still living there, but she's become a psychic. Alan tells Sarah who he is, and she promptly faints. Sarah spent the past years in therapy trying to recover from the traumatic experience of playing Jumanji the first time. They can't convince her to take her turn, so Alan just tricks her into rolling the dice. With that, they summon some wicked vine monsters that want to eat them and or poison them. Cool, or not so cool if you're in a situation where vines want to poison and or eat you. Look, it's good Alan's there. His 20 plus years in the jungle have given him specialized knowledge about the threats they have to face. The players hope that these special skills will help them beat the game, and if you want to build out your own skill set, use the link in the description to get 2 months of Skillshare for free. With 26 years worth of time to kill, Alan could take this class on swimming. You know, if he wanted to be prepared for any monsoon Jumanji decided to throw his way. He could also check out some of these botanical drawing classes. I know the plants in Jumanji are dangerous, I mean look at those vines, but boredom can be a killer too. And if Alan wanted to give his treehouse a little touch of home, he could check out this course on styling your space. This class, created by HGTV host Emily Henderson, includes stuff like how to identify your personal style. For Alan, I'm guessing that's jungle chic. And it also tells you how to find the perfect decor for your space. I'm sure Jumanji has some exotic finds. Our sponsor for this video, Skillshare, is giving away a free 2-month unlimited access trial to our subscribers who click the link in the description box. And after that, it's only about $10 a month, so check it out. In the meantime, let's get back to Jumanji because they are about to play the most dangerous game. With the next roll, the players summon a bloodthirsty explorer, Van Pelt, who wants to hunt Alan. Van Pelt is played by the same actor who plays Alan's dad, and he leans into the whole daddy issues thing by telling Alan to stop running and fight like a man. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. From here on, Jumanji rains chaos on all of the players. They summon a stampede, the board game gets stolen by a pelican, and they get it back just in time for Carl to arrest Alan. Alan tells Carl who he is and persuades Carl to let him go. Meanwhile, Peter has turned into a monkey for trying to cheat at the game. Things reach a fever pitch as Van Pelt, the stampeding animals, and the players, minus Alan, converge downtown. Van Pelt chases Peter into the path of the stampede and manages to steal the board game. He goes into a Sir Save-A-Lot store to wait for Alan, and maybe hunt for some bargains. Luckily for Van Pelt, Alan and Carl are on their way to the store. Sarah, Judy, and Peter engage in some Home Alone-style shenanigans as they battle Van Pelt. Just as they're cornered, Alan crashes into the store, spilling an entire aisle's worth of paint on Van Pelt. Then Sarah pulls the game from the wreckage. Carl gets separated, but he meets up with Aunt Nora, who's been dealing with her own monkey business. Then Carl's car gets stolen by a bunch of vines. This guy just can't catch a break. The players arrive back at the house, which the vines have turned into a jungle. They encounter even deadlier obstacles: a monsoon, crocodiles, quicksand, spiders, dart-shooting flowers, and an earthquake. Still, despite all of that, they manage to roll the dice and inch closer to the finish line. They're only a couple spots away when Van Pelt finds Alan again. But instead of running away this time, Alan faces Van Pelt. He rolls the dice, wins the game, and watches as all of the creatures unleashed by Jumanji are sucked back into the game, Van Pelt included. Okay, now here's where our timeline loops. Brantford, New Hampshire, 1969 in the restored timeline. Alan and Sarah awaken in 1969. They embrace, relieved to find that things have gone back to the way they were. They're kids again, and the game is over. Alan makes amends with his father, who decides that Alan doesn't have to go to boarding school if he doesn't want to. Alan fesses up to breaking the machine at the factory, so Carl's off the hook too. The kids still have all their memories of the original timeline, so they chain Jumanji to a bunch of bricks and throw it in the water. Goodbye forever, right? Brantford, New Hampshire, 1995, restored timeline. As the years go on, Alan and Sarah marry and live in the house Alan grew up in. Alan's made things right with Carl by supporting his sneaker dreams. The factory is thriving, Sarah and Alan are expecting, and Carl's a footwear superstar. Alan and Sarah throw a holiday party and invite their 2 newest hires, Judy and Peter's parents. Thanks to the new job, the parents have to cancel the ski trip that killed them in the original timeline. All in all, we're living in a much brighter future. That is, until Jumanji washes up on some beach and the drums start beating again. Brantford, New Hampshire, 1996. For whom does the drum beat? It beats for the random jogger. At the start of the second film, a jogger running on a beach discovers Jumanji and gives the game to his son, Alex Vreek. But Alex can't be bothered to try out some beat-up old board game. He's got the original Twisted Metal to play. Jumanji seems to notice that Alex isn't interested in it, so it transforms when Alex goes to bed. Waking to a strange green glow, Alex finds a game cartridge. It's Jumanji. Entranced, Alex starts to play, only to disappear for 20 years. Because apparently that's just how it goes when you're player 1. 1 in Jumanji. Brantford, New Hampshire, 2016. 20 years later, in 2016, 4 teenagers at Brantford High School find themselves in a very Breakfast Club situation. They're all in detention. Spencer Gilpin, a gamer and all-purpose nerd, is in for writing papers for his former buddy, Anthony Fridge Johnson. When they meet to pass off the paper, we get a brief glimpse of the Freak House, a run-down mansion where Alex Freak used to live. It's fallen into disrepair since his disappearance, but Spencer is more concerned with trying to rekindle his friendship with Fridge, who's pretty much dropped him since becoming a football star. Now, both boys are doing hard time in detention after getting caught. Next is Bethany Walker, an Instagram-obsessed and self-obsessed teen who's in the clink for FaceTiming during a quiz. And finally, we have Martha Capley, who ended up in detention after refusing to participate in gym class. Oh, and she also insulted the gym teacher to her face, so that probably had something to do with it. At Brantford High, detention consists of cleaning out an old storage room. Bored by the menial work, Fridge is the first to start poking around the room. He finds a video game console, still holding the Jumanji cartridge. Spencer sets it up so they can kill time. Each of the 4 select their characters, and as soon as they finish, the drums start playing, and they're all sucked into the game. Jumanji, 2016. Yes, it's 2016, and Jumanji has some new tricks up its sleeve, namely transforming each of those child actors into Hollywood A-listers. Spencer's been transformed into Dr. Smolder Bravestone, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Fridge is now Franklin Mouse Finbar, played by Kevin Hart. Martha is Ruby Roundhouse, played by Karen Gillan, and Bethany is transformed into Sheldon Oberon, played by Jack Black. After overcoming the initial confusion of being in different bodies and, being sucked into a video game, they notice that they each have 3 lines tattooed on their arms. As they try to wrap their heads around what's befallen them, Bethany is eaten by a giant hippo. She quickly responds, falling out of the sky, but as she collects herself, one of the notches on her arm goes away. Spencer concludes that the tattoos represent their in-game lives. The hippo tries to claim another victim, and Fridge discovers he's full of information about animals. It's Finbar's specialty, but it can't save them now. Luckily, a jeep pulls up. The NPC inside summons a letter in Spencer's hand, triggering an expository cutscene. The NPC is a man named Nigel Billingsley, a Jumanji field guide hired by Professor Van Pelt to help retrieve the sacred jewel of Jumanji. This powerful item is located in the eye of a giant panther statue. Fun fact, these statues are the old game pieces used by the original Jumanji crew. Anyone who possesses the sacred jewel gains dominion over all the animals of Jumanji. After hearing about its power, Van Pelt claimed the jewel for himself. But as Van Pelt became more and more obsessed with the artifact, he got trapped in its thrall. And bugs crawl out of him? I don't know, man, it's Jumanji. What is clear is that Van Pelt should not be allowed to keep the jewel. Nigel catches onto that pretty quickly, so he swipes the jewel and passes it off to Spencer. Nigel also gives the players their first objective. They must complete a quest to restore order to Jumanji through the power of rhyming. He gives them a map of Jumanji and tells them to head to the bazaar, repeating the final dialogue over and over and over again, as NPCs do. The gang leaves Nigel's jeep, and Spencer takes up the role of de facto leader, rallying everyone together while also trying not to cry. They check out the map Nigel gave them, but it looks blank to everyone except Bethany. Her skill as cartographer allows her to see the entire map of Jumanji. Being Jack Black has some benefits. Okay, being Jack Black has a lot of benefits. You kidding? I would kill to be in Tenacious D. But anyway, this prompts the other characters to try and uncover their special skills. Each character has preset stats, with strengths and weaknesses. As Bravestone, Spencer has literally 0 weaknesses. What do you expect? He's the Rock. But Fridge, he's got several. Ah, how the tables have turned. Bethany notices new information sprouting up on the map. Location names reveal themselves, as does a group of enemy bikers. The crew make a getaway, attempting to use their newly discovered skills along the way. The chase ends when the players jump over a waterfall and the bikers give up, moving on to easier prey. As they recover from the fall, Martha realizes she's been shot. Her character warps away and she respawns right on top of Fridge. The players can't help but wonder what will happen if they use up all of their in-game lives. Spencer guesses it means they die in real life too. Then, in a nice moment of levity, Fridge and Spencer teach Bethany how to pee, because she's in a guy's body, so, that's like a whole other operation. The players bond as they continue to make their way to the bazaar. Meanwhile, Van Pelt is using a cool vulture pal to track their location. When they finally make it to the bustling marketplace, the players chow down on rations. Fridge should have paid closer attention to his character's weaknesses though, because he immediately explodes when he eats a piece of cake. Being weak to cake? That's a cursed existence. The commotion prompts another NPC to appear. This time it's a little boy who leads them to the next part of the level. As they arrive, they're spotted by Van Pelt's vulture crony. The little boy shows the players their next objective. They have to work together to retrieve a game piece that's inside a woven basket. No big deal, right? Well, turns out there's a deadly snake in the basket too. Spencer and Bethany try to brainstorm ways to get past the snake, but it's Fridge who saves the day. His specialized knowledge of the animal kingdom gives them the edge they need. They find an elephant game piece, which was Alan's piece by the way, as well as a clue to the next stage. But there's no rest for the weary. Van Pelt's men find them, and the crew makes their escape once more. There's a cool fight with Spencer and the bad guys where he literally literally knocks guys through ceilings, walls, and even catches knives in midair. This dude's a powerhouse. Then Van Pelt himself arrives, looking for the jewel. An unseen ally throws a smoke grenade and pulls the players through a secret tunnel filled with booby traps. It's our old buddy Alex, player 1. His character is Jefferson Seaplane McDonough, played by Nick Jonas. He leads the players to Alan Parrish's old treehouse. He's taken shelter there to await the other players so he can move on to the next level. So they all resolve to beat the game together. The crew scopes out a transportation shed in hopes of stealing a vehicle. It's heavily guarded, but the players have a plan. Bethany motions for Martha to distract the guards while the rest of the crew tries to steal a vehicle. But Martha's hesitant. She isn't used to being a heartthrob, but Spencer gives her a pep talk and Bethany gives Martha some pointers. Once Martha's ready, she deploys her distraction and utterly fails to seduce the guards. Meanwhile, the others realize that the Alex they've met is in fact Alex Vreek, a boy who's been missing for 20 years. Alex realizes he's been in Jumanji for a long time, but he doesn't have a chance to reckon with that. Martha's failed attempt at seduction has devolved into a dance battle with the guards. Luckily, that's one of her character's strengths. The rest of the crew storms the shed where they fend off the bikers and get to a helicopter. Once inside, Alex is forced to conquer a fear of flying to make their getaway. But I'm not sure this is the best moment to get over his phobia, because the helicopter starts to break down as a stampede of man-eating albino rhinos chase them. Spencer manages to fix the helicopter, only for Fridge to drop the jewel as they get away, but it's not long before the jewel is back in their hands. Fridge distracts the rhinos and the rest of the crew rescues Fridge's, along with the jewel. But this is Jumanji. You know there are some other messed up jungle shenanigans coming their way. This time, Alex gets bitten by a mosquito, which is never fun, but it's an even worse situation because his character is weak to mosquitoes. So Bethany does mouth to mouth, effectively giving one of her lives to him. There's some more team bonding, with Alex and Bethany getting closer and Spencer and Martha admitting they like each other. They attempt to kiss, attempt being the key word. Fridge interrupts them at the crucial moment to reveal that he's found the jaguar statue. As the players approach the statue, Van Pelt's vulture spots them and flies off to tell his master. The map displays this new level's name, the Defenders, and a path forward reveals itself. Spencer takes it upon himself to deliver the jewel to the jaguar statue, but a bunch of squirrels stand between him and success. Look, it's more intimidating than it sounds, because 1, these are Jumanji squirrels, and 2, Spencer is very, very afraid of squirrels. He doesn't have to face them for long though, because he jumps out of the tree and gets eaten by the Defenders, a pack of jaguars. He respawns and he is shaken, understandably. Fridge helps him pull himself together and devises a strategy to get past the Defenders based on his knowledge of football. The first part of the strategy involves Martha dance-fighting bikers that arrive on the scene. It's Alex's job to distract the jaguars, and Spencer has to run for the statue while also avoiding the jungle cats. Fridge, he befriends an elephant. As they arrive at the base of the statue, Van Pelt reveals that he's captured Bethany. They plead with Van Pelt to release her, but Van Pelt refuses, unless they hand over the jewel. Spencer tells him he can't give it to him, but as Van Pelt cocks his gun, Spencer reveals that he doesn't have the jewel anymore. Fridge does, and Fridge is there with his elephant buddy ready to mess up Van Pelt's whole life. But jaguars pounce on the elephant and Dumbo runs off into the jungle. The jewel gets thrown in the air over their heads. Bethany breaks free in the commotion, and she and Alex fight Van Pelt. Spencer and Martha grab the jewel and rush to return it to its rightful place in the jaguar statue. They have to fight through a mess of snakes, which are under Van Pelt's thrall. It's especially dangerous for Martha, whose weakness is venom, but she turns her disadvantage into a winning strategy. She steps on a snake, dies, and respawns near Spencer, allowing her to pass off the jewel. Spencer makes it to the jaguar's eye, the original home of the jewel. They all shout Jumanji, ending Van Pelt's control of the jungle and its animals. And just then, NPC Nigel shows up right on cue. He shakes the players' hands, transporting them back to their own times. And here's another place the Jumanji timeline loops. Brantford, New Hampshire, 2016. The teens are back in Brantford High in 2016. Even better, well, for some more than others, they're back in their bodies. Sorry, Spencer, you don't get to be the Rock anymore. But they notice Alex isn't with them, so they decide to pay a visit to the Freak House. It's completely transformed. And just like the end of the original film, it's Christmas time. Alex was sent back to his original time, just like Alan and Sarah were in the first movie. The players have a happy reunion with Alex. It's all the happier because all the teens are friends now. See, I told you it's just like the Breakfast Club. And as an added bonus, Martha and Spencer are dating. Now there's only one thing left to do: destroy Jumanji. And so they smash the cartridge. But since there's a sequel coming out, I'm guessing it won't be too long before we hear those drum beats again. So there you go. For all intents and purposes, you've caught up just in time for the upcoming release of Jumanji: The Next Level. Spencer seems to have gotten himself sucked up in the world again. What do you think is going to happen? Leave a comment below. Oh, and be sure to subscribe to Cinematica for more timeline videos. I've been your host, Dan. Thank you very much for watching.